There is no one specific length that is best for design and construction contracts, but I do think that you want to avoid contracts that have gray areas, that are overly short and do not address all of the issues that might arise in the project. Because when you have a contract with those gray areas, if there is a dispute, those disputes tend to live on for years and years rather than get resolved much more quickly and cost efficiently. Let me just say that I'm in on the lawyer jokes. I get it. People in the design and construction industry with some justification say, oh my God, my lawyer, they make these contracts that are so long and they're so boring. And admittedly, in most projects, you have a good outcome and the contract winds up gathering dust in a drawer somewhere and is never really read. But on those troubled projects, having a good contract that sufficiently addresses the things that the parties might wind up getting into dispute over is key. Because again, it shortens disputes and it leads to earlier cost-efficient dispute resolution. You don't want those gray areas. Let me explain. So I'm a lawyer that does litigation, arbitration, mediation. I handle claims, but I also do contracts and I help parties with project delivery methods and I help to put down disputes before they arise. I would much rather put your dispute down in 3 months and help you with your next successful project than be involved in a dispute that's going to drag on for 3 years. Now, not every lawyer is lucky enough to have that situation. There are a lot of really good and well-intentioned lawyers that simply don't get paid to settle cases quickly. If they can't take depositions, if they can't go through discovery, then they're not going to get paid. And those lawyers tend to love a gray area in a contract. They tend to love a problem. They tend to like to look at the contract and say, well, you know, it's kind of a jump ball, so we're going to have to scorch the earth and turn over every stone and take every deposition and look at every document in order for the case to resolve. And that's really not what I'm going for. So when I'm negotiating construction contracts, what I'm trying to do is size up the scope of the project, size up who's involved, and not have a exceedingly long contract because I think that exceedingly long contracts are virtuous, but rather to find a contract length with the appropriate content so that it tends to address most of the contingencies that could arise on the project. Now, I can just hear some people doubting me, that are saying, I have standard form contracts and I flip them to the parties that I work with and we sign them and nobody ever winds up reading them too closely and they gather dust in a drawer and it's no big deal. I hear you, but the law of large numbers tends to imply that that is not a good outcome. You could cross the street without looking 100 times and not get hit by a car, or you could ride on a motorcycle past the speed limit without a helmet 100 times without getting into a crash. But you're never going to convince me that those things are safe. And just because people are able to point to a history of not caring much about construction contracts does not suggest to me that they have a winning strategy for having good outcomes on their projects and, in the unfortunate event of a troubled project, having the ability to achieve early, cost-efficient dispute resolution so that everyone can part as friends and think about their next successful project.